So, Mr. L, I wanted
Mr. L.
Mr. L, I want to first start by asking when exactly you started volunteering with Habitat and what that first spark was. Like, why did you even give us the time of day?
Well, my first build was St. Cloud Street, and I'm guessing it was right around 2000. And back then there was no internet or anything, and I was looking for something to do. And so I called up, threw my name in the hat, and never heard from Habitat. So in the meantime, they were looking for somebody to take over at our church for Causeway, so I signed up with them. About 6 months later, I got a phone call from Habitat. So I went out there and I joined them too. So then I was tied in with both of them at that point. And St. Cloud was my first one. You'd have to check the records to see when the build was, but I'm guessing it was right around 2000, 2001, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Was there something about the nature of work or Habitat's mission, or what, when you were looking for things to do, what made you choose Habitat?
I like building things, and they were building things, and I thought I'd go check them out and see what they're all about and see how it works out. And that's when I met Al Lean and Leanne Shepard, and I got to work with those two.
Did you have nicknames since you were both Als?
No, it just, if somebody hollered Al, we'd both look up, that was about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually had 3 L's on site at one time, yeah.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna start with maybe my meanest or hardest question. Is there a time on a construction site, or a time in general as a volunteer, that you made a mistake that you learned from?
Well, we all cut wood wrong. That's our biggest mistake. Yeah, you learn to really double check everything, and those that do, it slows them down a little bit, and I'm one of the slower ones. But yeah, you learn to double check. But and then sometimes you come up with an idea and it doesn't quite work out, and then you all sit down. We have to figure out a redo on how to do it again. Yeah. So, but nothing that actually sticks out. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one mistake was Spring Grove. We framed in 3 windows that were off a couple inches, but the sheathing wasn't cut, so we just basically cut them loose and moved them, put them back where they belong, and we're back on track. So that set us back an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's not terrible.
That wasn't too bad.
Yeah. No, Scott mentioned that he was maybe like cutting siding once, and the siding was 1 inch too short, and they had to use it in a different part of the house.
That happens with everybody. Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, but Scott also called you a perfectionist, Al. So I'm sure you do very quality work.
Well, I was trained as a tool and die maker, and which is basically, I call it a glorified machinist.
Yeah.
And we work with steel, and we work within micrometers and a thousandths of an inch. And to get into the woodworking side of it, you can never understand why we can't control the sizes as close as we can with steel, but wood is a whole different breed, and it has a tendency of warping and drying out and shrinking and everything else. And these are things you learn to adapt to.
Right. Yeah, adaptability is not just something on a resume. It's something you actually do.
Yeah, you learn.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a bit, Al, about your relationship with Habitat construction staff or other volunteers, and what those connections have been like?
Well, like I said, I started out with Al Lean and Leanne Shepard, and they were our go-to people if you had a question. They showed you what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, And I got a real good relationship going with those two, and we worked on quite a few houses together. We burnt up some tools together, and I think Leanne Shepard had an outing with Habitat on the Bangor project, and shortly after that, he retired out. And Al, of course, he got to the point that he just couldn't do it anymore, so he volunteered over at Gunderson Clinic, and he was out there until he just recently passed away.
Yeah.
As for the rest of them, Jason was interesting. He was a book learner. He'd read the books and he'd look for technology, and we'd be watching TV and watching the internet, and this is where the double walls came in. If we thought we had a good idea, we tried. We actually built a few of them like that, but they turned out to be rather costly because we had to double frame everything. I had a few people that we had one other Al, he lasted like 2 weeks. He just had bad health, he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Roger came in after that, or I shouldn't say Roger, Bob Andrew came in, and he took over, and Bob, I'm pretty sure, was a retired carpenter because he had the skills and he had the knowledge, but he also had a bout with Agent Orange in Vietnam, and his health started to go bad, and he bowed out, and that's when Jason took over. And then I worked with Jason. We got along pretty good. He was one who used to tell me, I'd ask him a question, he'd tell me, just go do it your way because you're going to do it that way anyways. And so we got along pretty good.
Because you could do it your way.
Yeah, and then we had another guy, I don't remember his name, but he didn't last very long. He was there for a little bit, and then they let him go, I believe. And then he started bad-mouthing Habitat on the internet, saying, he was the best thing they ever had, and we got rid of him, and dot. And I think Roger came after that. And Roger was pretty good to work with, but he liked to get everything done as fast as possible, and we had to slow him down because he's working with volunteers. When you got somebody working with that got very little experience, you got to slow down and teach them. And you got to put your tool belt away and teach the person what to do. And he wanted to get in there and just get it done. But we got along pretty good. And then he went on to better things after that. And I think Jeremy came on because Jeremy was his assistant at the time. So we had a meeting on that, and we voted to try to let him see how he does. And he did okay. And now Jeremy's out and Eric's in. So I told Eric, I said, you're my 8th supervisor now. I said, I'm going through them like water here.
Yeah.
So,
do you want to talk a little bit more about, because Habitat, obviously we have the restore, we do repair and reclaim now. Do you want to talk about, as a volunteer, how you've seen Habitat grow over time?
Well, I don't know too much about the reclaim and the repair department, to be honest with you. I know they exist, and I've seen what they do, and I think the reclaim is pretty good because we are bringing stuff in that we can reuse. The repair department, time will tell. That's going to be time tested.
Yeah.
What kind of work do they do, and the biggest thing is, are people happy with the work that they do? And I really can't make a comment on that because I haven't been involved with them at all.
Yeah.
I just pretty much know the construction side of what we're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. If someone's going to start volunteering on a construction site for the very first time, like you said, we provide the guidance and training. What advice would you give to someone volunteering for the first time?
Don't be afraid to make a mistake. They will happen. And watch your fingers. I always tell everybody, we count your fingers when you come in, and we want you to go home with just as many, so
Yeah.
Safety is a big thing. And if you're not comfortable doing something, come and ask for help or have somebody else do it for you.
Right.
You can't do something you're not comfortable doing with because you're going to be fearful of getting hurt or making a mistake. So you got to come in with an open mind saying, I can do this, I'm going to try it, and if I screw it up, I'll try it again.
Yeah. That's how you learn.
Yeah, and you learn. And if you like what you're doing, then come on back a second time and you learn a little bit more and a little bit more, and maybe after a while we'll have a regular.
Yeah. Is there a moment when you were working with another volunteer that was learning that you saw the light bulb go off for them?
No, not really. We had a pretty good group together at one time, but you got to remember too that back then we were building one house a year. So we always had the same group show up. And we had a lot of women building with us. And what happened is two of our construction supervisors decided that the women were going to just clean the trailer. And they didn't want them actually building. And it didn't take long for them to leave. They created a situation there, an atmosphere that they felt they weren't wanted, they weren't needed anymore. Prior to that, one would take a lead of a couple other women, and they teach them, and they were all building. And all of a sudden that went to heck, and that was a bad time for us because we got a bad name out of that. And now you try to recover and regroup, and it's hard to come back after you get advertisement like that.
Yeah.
So I think we got a pretty good group going now, but the biggest problem I see is we don't have enough regulars. We don't have the experience that we used to have 20 years ago.
Right.
Because we had the same people show up, and they got better and better and better as time went on, and they got to work with each other all the time, and it became a close group that knew what everybody was going to do. And now we got people that show up maybe one time, and maybe they'll come back a second time, and we do have some regulars, but with multiple houses going on, they're not always together. They're split up here and there, as you know.
Yeah.
And it is hard to build like that.
Do you want to talk a bit more about Al Lean when you first started volunteering? I know he helped found and start the affiliate. Was there anything else interesting about Al Lean you think we should know as a fellow Al?
No, Al Lean was very good at detail. He was very good in training, and he was very fussy. And that's the part I liked, because I thought I was sort of fussy too.
Yeah.
And Leon Shepard, he was the same way. And Leon was just the type of guy that could take somebody in and show them what to do, and you felt comfortable working with him. And if you made a mistake, he'd show you what happened and how to fix it, and away we went until you learned on your own, And we were working in a house on Hood Street years ago, and there's a little girl out there. She's probably been married many years by now, but I think her name was Emma. But don't hold me to that. And Leon and Al were working on something, and Leon come out, and he just had the look on his face like, I've had it for the day, And Emma come out, and it was the cutest thing, because she looked at him and she goes, "Come on, Mr. Leon, you can do it."
Aww.
And that sort of perked him up a little bit, and away we went again. But it was just that comment that she made at that time that got Al and got I, and it was actually directed towards Leon, and I think it gave him another little spurt of energy to keep on going,
Aww. Was that a partner family kiddo or a neighbor?
That was I don't know how they chose them back then, but that was a mother and a daughter that were picked out for Hood Street.
Okay. Yeah.
And that probably goes back, I don't know, 15 years, 17 years, something like that, but yeah. But just that little comment from the little girl, something like that, is that I've always remembered that throughout the years.
Aww. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Is there, one of the last questions I'll ask as we start wrapping up, Habitat for Humanity obviously focuses on the affordable, accessible housing piece, and we're in an affordable housing crisis right now. Is there something about Habitat's mission or values that really resonates with you and makes you feel like you want to work with Habitat?
I enjoy working with Habitat. It's the cost of everything that's getting all of us now. I mean, we used to build houses for $60,000, including the lot. Now you spend $60,000 and you can barely just get a lot. And we've gone from $60,000 to $220,000 homes now, and I have a hard time comprehending affordable housing into a $220,000 home, but it's the norm. It's just the way it is right now. And I think looking back at the $60,000 homes, you gotta, that's past time, and that time is long gone, and you got to try to figure out how to do things, that are still good, still acceptable, still energy efficient. One of the biggest things we used to push for back then is they used to buy cheap doors and cheap windows, and I used to argue with them, and that we cannot afford to do that. We need to at least put better doors in and better windows in, because the homeowner's not going to be able to afford to change out doors and windows down the road when they're getting into a lower income house, and they're selected as low income, and so finally they decided to put better doors better windows in. So, technology has come by, and we've raised our standards, which is good, and I hope we continue going there. But we got to be careful that we don't end up building $400,000 and $500,000 homes and then try to put them into the low-income market, because that won't happen.
Right. Well, and not only on the construction side, but it sounds like you've always been an advocate for the partner families and the people we're working with, too.
Oh, yeah. I like working with the families, yeah. You were there for the Avon Street.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the best turnouts I've seen in a long time. That was probably one of the most appreciative families that I've ever got to work with. And it was just, how they reacted to getting a house that makes it so worthwhile. You build a house and anybody can sit there and pound nails in. And that's what I tell everybody if they ask what I do. This guy is the boss. He tells me where to pound the nails and I pound them in, And I said, that's my position.
Yeah.
And but then you get to work with some of the family members, and they're working for a reason. They're working to get that house. And you want to give them the best house you possibly can. And then when it's all said and done and we have the handing over of the keys, that's the point where it really makes it worthwhile. That point right there is everything that you've worked for up to that point. And when you get a family that's so appreciative like that, it makes you look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
And you just keep on going.
That's so sweet. Yeah. Is there anything, Al, you feel like I didn't ask you that you would want to bring up about volunteering or about Habitat in general?
We gotta do better at what we're doing. There's room for improvement on every aspect of it,
Yeah.
Right from leadership down to the volunteers. Everybody's got a different way of doing things, and sometimes I'm a little outspoken in how I think things should be done, and sometimes I might be right and sometimes I might not be right, but we need to sit down and discuss these things. We need more detailed information as to what our ultimate goal is, in a building project.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of lack of communication to start with. We should start there.
Well, and that's good feedback. We always should be constructively looking at ways that we can grow and improve.
We used to have a meeting once a month, and talk about construction, and that has sort of subsided. And just to have somebody on site that says, this is what we're doing, this is how we're gonna do it. If you run into any problems, let them know, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But sometimes we show up, and not everybody's got all the details as to what we're doing, or we don't have the materials on hand.
Yeah.
There's room for improvement. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, certainly. I think we're just about done. Is there anything else?
No, that's
Al?
about it.
Beautiful. Well, we will wrap it up